tracking quite a few things with the weather patterns in the coming days. That includes Tropical Storm Debby for the eastern U.S. We've got a cool down for millions of other Americans as well. This video is going to have the details on both of those aspects of the pattern ahead. No matter what corner of the U.S. you live in, I've got the details on temperatures and precipitation with custom graphics right here.
One Nation Weather.
Don't forget, as always, that many of the model maps that I use throughout my videos, including those right there in the intro, the ones on screen right now, they are from WeatherBell. If you want to check out WeatherBell maps, there is a free trial link down below in the description to this video. Also, I have 4,874 lovely people who are already subscribed to the channel. If you want to join the group of a growing weather community right here with consistent, accurate, and educational forecasts, consider hitting that subscribe button down below if you have not already. And at least watch this video first to see if you like it. Let's get right into it with that mid-level jet stream from the European model, looking about 500 millibar level, which is into the 15 to 20,000 foot range up there into the atmosphere. Even though this is up in the atmosphere, it really gives you a great idea of what's going on right down here at the surface. And as we go towards the end of our Wednesday, August 7th of 2024, into the evening, you can see exactly where what's left of Tropical Storm Debby is going to be sitting around right along that Carolina coast. I know that Carolina coast is where this thing has been for the last couple of days. It's going to continue to bring heavy rainfall there, and I'll break it down more in this video. You can also see, as we go to that same time frame, we're going to be watching quite a bit of jet stream energy up here coming out of Montana, Wyoming, moving through the Dakotas and Nebraska, all the way over there towards Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. This is west-northwesterly flow, and that's going to only continue to really strengthen in the next several days, bringing not only some showers out ahead of that stripe of heaviest flow, but also some much cooler and drier air right behind it. I'll be talking about that later in this video too, so make sure that you're sticking around for the entire thing in some of these locations and using those timestamps in the description. You can notice that same northwesterly flow is going to continue to really circulate around a mid to upper level piece of low pressure around the Great Lakes as we go towards the start of the upcoming weekend. When you think low pressure, you think of rainfall, but we're really not going to have too much rainfall out of this one, or at least out of this one as we head towards the start of the weekend. There's going to be a little bit around it, but there will never be too much in the way of thunderstorm activity, never too much in the way of crazy rain or wind out of this either. It is going to bring quite the cool down behind it though, and you can really see that jet stream continuing to sag southward, bringing cooler air with it, heading towards the start of the upcoming week, so next week. Let's go ahead and take a look at that same pattern with the future radar aspect of the European model now, and here we go towards that same time frame that I was showing you with the jet stream a moment ago. Now we're looking at it with that rainfall for late Wednesday, August 7th. It's crazy to believe we're already capping off the first 7 days of August, but here we are. This storm has been around for pretty much the entire August, right? Just sitting around in some areas of the southeast U.S. for now the last at least few days. The Carolinas, and up there to Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, surrounding spots. All these locations feeling the wrath of either that cold front up there on the northern end of that circled area, or Debby the further south you go. Here we go with the precipitation back there out of that same low that's going to be near the Great Lakes heading towards the start of the upcoming weekend. For this point in time, at late Wednesday, it's going to be sitting anywhere from around Montana, curling all the way on up there towards Minnesota with that cooler front. We're going to have isolated severe thunderstorms along it, but nothing, too out of the ordinary, especially for the northern plains this time of the year. That will continue with isolated shower activity through some parts of the plains and upper Midwest Thursday. We'll be watching Debby now moving back inland with its second landfall there into parts of the Carolinas, and then up there towards the mid-Atlantic, we'll still have the impacts of a front Thursday and into Friday. Speaking of those impacts up in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, here we go towards Friday into the afternoon and evening. I was showing you earlier with that jet stream that we're going to see that west-northwest to southeast flow. With time, that flow is eventually going to pick up, Debby, and this is right around that time you see those red lines encroaching from the west there through Michigan and Ohio. These are going to speed Debby up, get her really racing to get out of the picture up there in the northeast U.S., but she's still going to be bringing quite a bit of rainfall. Then notice these red lines, those are the ones really pushing Debby out of the picture because they basically overall coincide with where the jet stream's moving through, west-northwest over to the east. Notice not much rain, instead just some drier air moving into the north-central U.S., and drier air this time of the year can actually mean some cooler air. Temperatures are going to be upwards, or I should say downwards of, say, 10, 15, 20 degrees below seasonable averages. So it is going to be quite chilly, so to speak, for this time of the year in some of these locations. A little bit of shower activity to close out the week. Notice that in some of the monsoonal areas there of the southwest. Overall, the picture pretty quiet across the country as we go into the upcoming weekend. Debby's going to be out of the picture, or post-tropical Debby's going to be out of the picture, whatever you want to call her. Most of the eastern U.S. not going to be getting much rain. The only spot seeing some heavier downpours in some spots, Montana. We're going to see some activity there into Wyoming. Some of these areas coming out of the Rockies, really, and then over there into the Central Plains. Maybe some isolated severe storms to close out the weekend and head towards next week. All right, let's go ahead and get into the tropics topics side of things. I want to talk about what's left of Debby, what the next 3 to 5 days are going to bring with her as she speeds up and moves towards that northeastern United States. If you are not here for Debby, if you don't live in areas that are going to be impacted by this tropical system, you live up there in the Midwest, the plains, wherever, please use those timestamps down in the description of this video to navigate to where I'm going to talk about the upcoming cool down and the newer weather pattern that's going to be on the way. That's going to be around the 8 to 9 minute mark of this video. But let's take a look at the forecast rainfall on the way from Debby. Look at the continued totals. We're stacking up rainfall on top of areas that have already seen it in the Carolinas. So the next few days, all the way really here through our Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday, from Charleston up there to Raleigh, from south to North Carolina, totals upwards of 6 to 12 inches of rain throughout this entire area. Notice there's greens and yellows going all the way on up there through the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast as well. Places like Roanoke, Richmond there in Virginia, up to, say, Wilkes-Barre there in Pennsylvania, Syracuse, Albany in New York, Burlington, Vermont, widespread 4 to 6 inches of rainfall along that little strip there and some spots in between. We're definitely going to have to be watching some of those heaviest rainfall totals that move on through. We're going to go back to the European model now. I know I was using it in the overview, but I want to use it again here, and I want to kind of take a closer look at what's going on into the next few days. First of all, Debby's going to have to make a second landfall because she's gone back offshore. She's still going to keep the rainfall going here from Savannah, Georgia, all the way up to around Virginia Beach. This is as we go towards our Wednesday around 1 to 2 p.m. So again, even though she's going to be offshore, we're probably going to see most of the rainfall on the southern side. There's still going to be enough to keep flooding going there along those Carolina coastline areas. Then when she begins pushing back towards the land and is going to get sucked up towards that jet stream energy that's towards the northwest, this is as we go towards the mid-afternoon time frame on our Thursday, she is going to be bringing some pretty heavy rainfall and some gusty winds through the central and northern parts of South Carolina, through a lot of North Carolina, especially that middle chunk of the state, and then on up there into Virginia. Look at all those heavy rains, the greens, the yellows, the reds. This European model really picking up on those downpours that could move through places like Raleigh, all the way over there towards Charlotte and North Carolina around this time frame. Thursday definitely looks like the heaviest day for some inland North Carolina impacts. Keep in mind, though, coming out of the Carolina coast, going up there towards the North Carolina and Virginia coast, Wednesday towards Thursday, we'll be watching the isolated tornado threat. We'll see if we can carry one up here into the mid-Atlantic as well as we go towards Friday. This is as we go towards Friday into the late day. By this point, seeing this system interact with that front that's in the area, there's northwest flow moving in from the west. It's going to have to begin screaming to the northeast to get out of here. Pennsylvania, New York, surrounding spots, some heavier downpours probably in the mix at this point in time again. Probably not too much in the way of severe weather. I think flooding is going to be the main threat, but we'll see if we could get a spin-up tornado with some of these bands on the southern side. By Saturday, we're going to have lots of rivers up and down the east coast that are running high, but we're also going to have Debby finally pushing out. And it will have been pretty quick of a hit for the northeast U.S., although it won't have felt like it because of the fact that a front will have just been lingering around all week before Debby even moved in. Anyway, speaking of some impacts from Debby, let's go ahead and talk about the wind impacts. This is as we go out of our Tuesday evening when I filmed this video all the way through Thursday evening, so August 6th, heading all the way through the end of August 8th. Most wind gusts in the Carolinas are going to be peaking at the high end. These are max wind gusts around 40 miles per hour at some point during this time frame. I think a lot of these are going to happen as we go towards Thursday over a broad sense of this area. But, you know, some spots will definitely be seeing consistent 20 to 30, maybe even a little bit higher for those gusts. That could definitely knock down some tree limbs, especially where the soil is saturated. Keep that in mind there. A very similar setup up here through the mid-Atlantic side of the East Coast. East of the Appalachians, that's where these gusts are going to be highest. If you're west of the Appalachians, you're not going to be feeling the impacts as much. They're along the Jersey Shore, the Delaware Shore, the Delmarva region, and then back on up there towards Long Island. We'll be watching some of those gusts that could be upwards of 50 to 55 miles per hour, at least right above the surface here. We'll see if those could come down to the ground level briefly at some point into our Thursday going towards our Friday. Look at this, by the time we go towards Saturday into early Sunday, the highest gusts will be up there, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and those will be around 30 to 40 miles per hour as well. That is it for Debby. That's all I want to talk about with her for now. Let's move on to temperatures across the United States for the next few days, and let's start with Wednesday the 7th and into our Thursday the 8th of August. Look at these temperature anomalies, cooler than average for a right reason in the east as we've got precipitation moving on up along that corridor. But look at some of these areas out here. I want to focus on the north central plains where temperatures could be upwards of 10 to 15 degrees below seasonable averages for this time of the year. And then down there in one of the states where it's supposed to be hottest, just in general this time of the year, Texas, go on up about 10 degrees above your seasonable normal because that's where you're going to be. It's going to stay warm down in the southern and western U.S. even as we go towards Friday the 9th into our 10th, which is our Saturday. But look at this. We're going to continue to see cooler than average air filter into the northern half of the U.S. Up there, Kansas, Nebraska, over to Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Michigan. This could be around 15 to 20 degrees below normal for this time of the year. And then as we go towards next week, going out of Sunday and into our Monday, some of the anomalies look a little bit weaker. It's going to be a little harder to pinpoint, especially at this time, exactly where those coolest temperatures are going to be. But overall, expect some cooler than average air in the northern U.S., warmer than average air in the southern U.S. That's going to be the trend that continues, and most of the West around to a little bit above normal. Let's see what that looks like with the actual temperatures for the next few days. We're going to look at low temperatures in the morning, like what we're looking at here for Wednesday. We'll also be looking at some high temperatures into the afternoon. This is Wednesday morning. Lots of 70s in the south. In fact, we're going to be breaking those records where you see those circles in Florida. It has never been this warm before to start the day, as we're going to be well into the low to mid 80s across the state in many spots. For morning temperatures, that's crazy. By the afternoon, mid to upper 90s in some spots there in Florida, and it is going to be feeling much worse than that with the humidity values. Here we go. Here's that line that I'm drawing, and you can really see what the line represents. It separates 80s and 90s from 60s and 70s, literally. Up there on that Canadian border in North Dakota and Minnesota, it's going to be right about 70 degrees. Right down there on that Mexico border, the Gulf Coast border of Texas and Louisiana, it is going to be about 100 degrees, and it's going to be feeling even higher than that with the humidity. I hope that makes you feel better if you're in the heat, and I hope, without the sarcasm, that it makes you feel better about the temperatures up there in North Dakota, because I bet most people are enjoying those kinds of levels. Here we go towards Thursday afternoon. More heat. I'm skipping over Thursday overall, but you can see why I'm briefly going to focus on some of these highs Thursday afternoon. 60s and 70s are just uncommon this time of the year, and those circles in Nebraska indicate that it's never been this cool for a maximum temperature since records have been kept. And then, we've got temperatures in parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota. I mean, even though they might not be record-breakingly cool, we're still 60s and 70s, and that's going to be dang near those record low highs. I know that's a tongue twister there, or, a very weird statement, but from the Carolinas up there to Maine, it's also going to be cooler because of the rainfall Thursday. Look at this Friday morning. Here's that line. You can see it through the plains where we've got 60s and 70s south of it. In this circled area, we've got 50s. Even Chicago, Illinois, it's going to be pushing down to try and get into the 50s on that urban heat island into our Friday morning. There will be some 40s in the mix up there in Montana, parts of Wyoming, and even as you go up with elevation, you could try to get down to the 30s there. We're going to continue to see, temperatures in the 70s up here in the north central U.S. Friday afternoon, near 100 down there in parts of Texas. Saturday morning, the lows are going to be very high there in Texas. In fact, record-breaking warm lows near 80 degrees, whereas up here in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, we're seeing 50s for lows. So there's that contrast, really half and half. The north is going to be cool. The south is going to be even hotter than normal for this time of the year as we head towards the upcoming weekend. There's that line. We've got 80s and 90s south of it, more 70s north of it. That's going to include the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. We've got Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, over there towards New York. Over to Maine, more 70s for high Saturday afternoon. So I hate to rub it in on everybody here in the South, but I live in the South, so I can do it too. I'm rubbing it into myself as well. It is going to be hot down here, and a lot of other people are going to be enjoying much nicer temperatures, unless you like the heat up there in Minnesota. All right, now that temperature ramble is done, this video is literally done. There's not too much to talk about in the overall weather pattern. No crazy signs for down the road in the tropics or on land. I'll let you know when something like that does pop up, though. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you see that. I will see you right here in the next video, hopefully on Thursday.